Good afternoon, Year 7. You get 3 videos this week. You'll notice, or you may have noticed, I've just uploaded a new assignment to our Microsoft Teams, our History Year 7 team. So this is a video explaining how to do that assignment and how to submit the work. But really, you're going to do it in very much the same way as you did lesson 1 this week. So the first thing that you'll do, you'll notice here that I'm already on my Teams page. First of all, you're going to go ahead and click on the History Year 7 team. And then you'll notice in the feed, now in the posts, that our next assignment, Summer Term Week 1, Lesson 2, is up. So you're going to go ahead and hover over that button that says View Assignment. It will colour in sort of lilac-y colour once you've done that, and you're going to click on that. And that will take you to the assignment. Now, as I've said to you a number of times before, yours won't look like this. You won't have all of this. Now, I noticed earlier that handily it says Student View, which is really useful. I didn't notice that before. And you can see that here. So this is what it will look like for you. And as it says, complete this assignment in exactly the same way as lesson 1, complete the tasks. When you're finished and you've uploaded the document, if you need to, remember that's if you're either doing it on your own Word desktop app or you're writing it out by hand and taking a picture and sending it to me, then you need to upload it. And once you've done that, you're going to click Hand In. And you have until Sunday to complete the task. That's the same as with lesson 1. You will always have until Sunday to get it done and handed in to me, okay? Now, you're going to go ahead, and if you're working on it in Microsoft Teams, which is the easiest option, you're just going to click on that Word document at the bottom there. And this page should load. Now, it's going to look a little bit funny because Word Online, to be honest, is a bit rubbish and does lots of annoying things. Like you can't use text boxes, you can't move pictures the same. It's a little bit irritating. So once we've got it in editing mode, it's going to look a little bit weird. Things are going to move around, but bear with it. You can, once you've gone out of edit mode, it will go back to normal. Okay. So just like we did before, you're going to click on Edit Document in the top right. And if you're editing it in Microsoft Teams, you're going to click on Edit in Browser. Click Edit in Browser. And then it's going to go ahead and load a version of the document that you can edit. Now that might take a few minutes. It might take 30 seconds or so to load. It depends how quick your laptop is. I've got a very quick laptop and even mine is taking a while to load it, as you saw. So as you can see, it's moved some things around. The keyword box is above the title. Doesn't matter a huge amount. Don't panic if it does that for you. You're not going to get told off or lose any marks for it moving around the page. And you'll probably find once you've closed it for editing, it will go back to how it was before anyway. Okay, now you'll see then that the whole lesson I put into one document for you. So you haven't got the whole booklet, you've just got this lesson, which should make it a little bit easier. You'll also see that we're starting our super curriculum, which is really exciting. Remember, that's the sort of extra stuff that we do after we've finished our Aspiring for Excellence to really enhance our knowledge about a different aspect of what we've been studying. Now, for your super teaching, you're going to be doing about Henry's first daughter. Remember, he had 3 legitimate children. That means children through marriage. He did actually have 1 illegitimate child at least as well, a boy. Now, our super curriculum is about his first child, as I said. And you might remember that that was Mary the First. Mary the First was the child of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. I've actually given you a picture of Mary in the text or in this lesson. There it is. She's been remembered in history as Bloody Mary. You may have heard the nursery rhyme. You may have heard of the cocktail, the drink. I wonder, though, whether this is actually fair. And lots of historians recently have been writing books suggesting that perhaps that's not how we should remember Mary the First. And maybe the reason we remember her that way is because of the actions of other Tudor monarchs, kings or queens. or other monarchs through history. Some people have also said it's maybe because she was a Catholic, not a Protestant. So that's really what you're going to spend this super teaching, this inquiry, exploring in, as you'll see, 4 lessons. And our first lesson today, lesson 11, was Mary I bloody? You're going to start to make a decision about that question by the end of this lesson. Now, first of all, as always, you're going to want to go ahead and read the keywords and definitions. Pause the video and do that now. And once you've done that, you're going to go and fill in the Quizlet tasks. Now, I haven't given you the whole document, so you might need to go back to the emails I sent before Easter, which have got the whole workbook in it, so you can check knowledge organisers or you can check your work in there, okay? But the questions that you need to answer are: what mattered to young Henry VIII? Just one thing. You're going to need to write a definition for the word Renaissance. Again, remember we studied that before Easter. And then you're going to need to put these time periods, A, B, C, D, in order, and put these events, A, B, C, D, in order along the timelines. To do that, you're just going to type like you did on the timeline in lesson 1. So I might write, for example, I know that the Anglo-Saxons start in about 440 AD, so I'm just going to type D there. Or for instance, I know the Battle of Hastings was in about 1066, so I've used my space bar to go forward a little bit, and then I'm just going to add B there. Okay? Simple. Pause the video here, complete those tasks now. Okay, once you've done that, you can move on to the tasks for this lesson. And it says, if someone was nicknamed Bloody, what might they have done? I'm asking you to think about Mary I, whose nickname is Bloody Mary. Pause the video here. Think about why she and others might be nicknamed Bloody. Just think for now. Pause the video. Okay, once you've had a think about that, I need you to type an answer. Why might somebody be called Bloody? Pause the video here and do that now. Okay, so you should have written an answer. Now the next task requires you to watch a video. I'm going to share that link with you in the posts for our team, but you'll also see that I've given you a link here. So you've got a couple of options about how you access this. If you actually hold down, I mean, one option is to copy it, so highlight it. Then if you hold down Control and press C, and then open a web browser and hold down Control, that's CTRL, and press V, then it will paste it. And then you can just hit enter and it will load that video. That's one option, or actually the simpler one is to just hold down Control, and you should have you should have 2 control buttons on your keyboard, but they're the big buttons that have CTRL on them, the big buttons with CTRL on them. If you hold that button down, you'll see that my cursor has changed to a little finger pointing. And that means that I can now just click on that link and it's just going to open it automatically. Look at that. So you need to go onto that link and you need to watch that video about the most evil women in history, about Bloody Mary Tudor. And then you're going to need to answer the questions underneath. Now you'll see again that I've given you instructions for where I want you to type. Where it says type here, that's where you type the answer. Now I've given you gaps in between these. You might find that that's not enough. Now the same as in lesson 1, you're going to use the enter button to add more lines and the delete or the backspace button to take away lines. Okay, it's really simple. All right, so you're just going to type your answers to those questions based on what it says in the video, where it says type here. Really simple. Pause the video here, complete those tasks now. Now, you'll also notice that there are 2 challenge questions underneath. What type of people were executed by Mary I? And what prior learning does this link to? What stuff you've learned before might this link to? And how might we test whether the claims the historian makes in the video are correct? I'd like you all to pause the video, have a think about those questions and answer them now, thanks. Pause the video, do those tasks. Okay, now we're going to do some more, or we need to understand more about what Mary did and why she did these things. That video doesn't give us enough detail. Now, annoyingly, here's one situation where Word Online, like I said, it's rubbish, has messed around and moved all of the things that I've typed. Now, that should read each text box and write a summary sentence underneath each box. That means summarize what the text box above says. I'll read that again. Read each text box and write a summary sentence underneath each box. Summarize what the text box above says. Okay? It sounds complicated, it's really simple. Remember, a summary means include the main points, but not all of the details. Just describe the gist of what it says. So what you're going to need to do is read each text box starting with number 1, and then you're going to write a summary sentence, again starting with number 1, about what it says. And you're going to write that where it says type here. For instance, that first box reads, Mary I was the firstborn of Henry VIII's children. Her mother was the Spanish princess, Henry VIII's first wife, Catherine of Aragon. Unfortunately for Catherine, Mary was the only child she was able to give Henry. This was a problem. Henry VIII was desperate to have a son to become the next king when he died. Some of that's probably familiar to you. But I'm going to write a summary sentence underneath. I'm going to say Mary first was Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII's only child. She was a girl, which was a problem as Henry VIII needed a male heir. Okay? Now, once I've done that, I'm just going to hit delete a couple of once, just to close that gap between my summary sentence and the next text box underneath. Then I'm ready to go and read the next text box and write my summary sentence underneath. I'm going to follow exactly the same process again. Okay, I think you're ready to do that on your own now. You can go off and read text boxes 2, 3, 4, and 5 and write your summary sentences underneath where it says type here. Remember to hit delete afterwards to close any gaps between your sentence and the next text box underneath. Pause the video here, write your summary sentences for boxes 2, 3, 4, and 5 now. Okay, now as I mentioned, lots of historians have written about Mary I. And one historian who about 10 years ago when I was in university wrote a biography of Mary I. And in fact, this historian went to my university. She was a lecturer at my uni, and she was one of my lecturers during my master's as well in history. Now, what I need you to do, please, is read this quote from her book. The historian's name is Dr. Anna Whitelock. And you're going to need to try and work out what she is saying about Mary I. You might like to start by working out whether you think she's positive or negative about her, and why she's positive and negative about Mary I. Okay? So read the text box that starts Bloody Mary was a Catholic extremist. And then once you think you've worked it out, write where it says type here, where I've just written those letter G's, what you think Dr. Anna Whitelock is saying, positive or negative, and why. Pause the video here, do that task now. Now, once you've done that, you're almost ready to start to bring the lesson to a close. We're going to do some key historical thinking before we do that. So I want you to, first of all, we've done this many times, pick a number from 0 to 10 for how bloody you currently think Mary I was. Once you've decided your number, you're going to type it where it says type your number here underneath. So if I thought that Bloody Mary was about a 7 on a bloodiness scale, then I would type the number 7 there. Pause the video here, decide your number and type it underneath now. Now, this time we're going to write our reasons for our number as tweets. Now, a tweet is something you write on Twitter. And Twitter is a platform where people write short, sharp explanations or statements about things. So that's what you're going to do to explain why you picked that number. But you're going to have to give yourself a Twitter name first, because that's what you do on Twitter. So my Twitter name is SOJ Boulder. So I'm going to go ahead and type that there. And then next to where it says I believe, type here. I'm going to say, explain why I wrote that number 7. I believe Bloody Mary was a 7 on the bloodiness scale because she ordered the execution of many Protestants by burning them at the stake. Now, at this point, I'm going to go up and I'm going to see if there's any more detailed evidence that I might be able to add, because I think I could make my answer a little bit better. Now, what do I remember reading? 1516, Mary changed the whole of the country back. So explain why these people were Protestants and refusing to change back. Obviously, that makes it totally okay to burn 300 people. Right, 300, that's roughly the number of people that she executed by burning them at the stake. I'm going to include that in my answer. By the end of her reign, she had executed roughly 300 people in this way. Now, the really cool thing about tweets is that if you wanted to, you could at other people, you could add them in. So I might say at Mary I, and I might make up a Twitter name for her, or I might say at Anna Whitelock. She's that historian we were reading about before. And I can add things like hashtags. So I might have a bit of fun here and say like hashtag Bloody Mary or hashtag execution, hashtag Tudors, hashtag history fun, or something like that. Okay, so you can add as many of those things as you want once you've written your tweet. But your tweet should be in academic writing, like you'd write in your Aspiring for Excellence or in a claim paragraph. Okay, now you'll also then notice that underneath there is a space for a peer reply. Now, obviously, you can't do that with a peer in your class, but you might like to do this with somebody at home, and that way they can read your response, you can fill them in on what you've read, and then you can ask them to write a response to yours. Okay? That's it for this lesson. I'm just going to run through again very quickly how you might then submit it. So you're going to go back to your assignments once you've done it. And actually, I'm going to show you on my test class again. And here's that test class I showed you with Mr. Banks. And you will probably find that it will look something like this. And all I'm going to do is just click hand in, and that's going to submit it. If you've done it on Microsoft Teams, it will already be updated for you. Remember, it saves automatically, so you can just hit hand in. Remember that if you have done either option 2 or option 3 and you've opened it on your desktop, or you've done it by hand and you've taken a picture, well, you need to save that document to your desktop. You need to save it as something like your name followed by lesson 2. And then you're going to click this little plus here where it says add work. You're going to click on upload from this device. You're going to find your document. Remember that tip I showed you by clicking on date modified. That puts it in the order of when you've used it. So if you've just done your work, it will show up. And then you're going to click on a document, click open. It won't let me do it because it's already open. You're going to click on a document, click open. Then when it loads, you're going to click done. And then when you're finished, you're going to hit hand in. Okay? Do not send me any work on email because I'll ignore it. You need to send me your work or hand in your work on Microsoft Teams. Okay? Hope it was useful.